Back at TCH for their hectic 2-5 session.
You guys are gonna like this one.
My table is crazy. I've been all in already 3 times, so it'll be a good one.
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. Another 2-5 session at TCH with the boys. I buy in for $500 and early on get quartered in an Omaha bomb pot. We're down to $355 in our stack before I have a chance to top up. And we're dealt ace queen offsuit on the button. There's a $10 straddle on, under the gun +1 opens a 30 and gets 1 caller. Now I want a 3-bet, but my stack size kind of makes it awkward here, so I really only have 2 options, either call or shove. I decide on the aggressive route and shove for $355. Folds around to the big blind, who decides to make the cold call. Everyone else quickly gets out of the way, and this lady asks me to run it twice. Of course, I say yes, and we're off to 2 runouts. We end up making top pair on one board and are stuck with ace high on the other board. I table my ace queen and the big blind shows us that she called us down with pocket 5s. We chopped this one up, but the big blind called us light. This is clearly an action player at the table, and I'm looking forward to getting in more pots against her later on in the session. Just wait.
Do you guys run it once or twice? Comment that below. I'll have that option late in the session in a huge pot. Let's not get ahead of ourselves though. We have 9-10 of spades in the small blind, early position, and the button call 5. I could call for only 3 more, but I decided to raise it up to $35 to attack these limpers. I think I should go a bit more polar here and size up to 45 or 50, as they both very quickly make the call. The flop comes ace, ace-3 with no spades. I check, and they both check as well. The turn comes the 4 of clubs, and now I've seen some weakness that I decide to attack and put a bet out for $55. Early position calls and the button folds. I really don't think he has an ace at this point after checking the flop, but we really have absolutely no equity going to the river, which comes the 5 of spades. I'm hoping he has a club draw that missed or a possible straight draw, so I fire again for 175. It's a 2/3 pot size bet. In early position, makes the call with 6-5 of diamonds. He paired up on river and calmingly collects my punt. On to the next one.
First hand for me, we have ace-jack offsuit in the cutoff. Under the gun straddles to 10. There are 2 limps, and the hijack opens to 50. We make the call, the straddler calls, and both limpers call. So we are going 5 ways to a bloated pot flop, which comes ace 8-3 with 2 spades. We hit our top pair. Checks to the hijack, who forgoes his option to c-bet. He checks, and now it's on us. A lot of draws, a lot of people in here. We've got a top pair. We're going to bet that top pair. I make it 150 into about 250, a little more than half pot, and it goes fold, 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 and fold, and we profit $200 just like that.
A few hands after our ace-queen all-in, we're dealt ace-king offsuit in the low jack. There's a $10 straddle on and 2 limpers to me. The lady who called me down with pocket 5s was in the cutoff, and the past few hands she had proven to me that she's very, very aggressive and kind of wild, so I decided to lay in the weeds with my hand and try to set the trap. I limp for $10. Folds to her in the cutoff and plans go accordingly. She takes the bait and opens it to $60. Let's go, time to make some money. Folds around back to the straddler who calls, and both the limpers call 60 as well. Well everyone, I've got some bad news for you. The price of poker just went up. I'm all in for $390. The lady in the cutoff lets out a chuckle while she stacks out $400 worth of calling chips and makes a call. The straddler now goes into the tank and decides to call as well. This pot is getting out of hand now, oh boy. And the under the gun 1 player calls all in for less, about $200. The other limper folds and we're 4 ways to a board. However, there's side action between the straddler and the lady in the cutoff. The board comes queen, queen, deuce. The straddler checks and the lady jams for $800 total. The straddler goes deep into the tank and after a few minutes of thinking, folds. Now we're 3 ways all in to a turn and river that run out a deuce and a 7. The under the gun 1 player flips over pocket 6s, which has us beat unfortunately, and the lady in the cutoff shows ace king offsuit as well. Pocket 6s is going to be scooping in a massive pot, and me and the lady chop up a decent side pot, but we're still going to end up losing about $90 on the hand. What a crazy way to start off the session, but my table is action, I can't complain. Time to top up and battle it out.
I moved tables and topped up my stack. We have been very card dead, which has made me play with some impatience, which could be extremely costly at the 2-5 games. I looked down at king queen offsuit in the cutoff. There's a low jack limp and I raised up to 25. The button makes the call and then the small blind re-raises to 80. When it folds back to me, I'm not giving the small blind a ton of credit here for having a big hand. First, it's a small raise. Second, a late position raise with a call in between is a naturally good spot to squeeze. That being said, king queen is not good enough to call his 3-bet. It does block kings and queens though, so what's the other option besides calling or folding? I'm 4-betting. I 4-bet bluff to 260. The button snap folds. And I don't think I've ever done this on a vlog before, so I know it'll get a ton of credit with my tight image. We're hoping he folds all his ace-high bluffs and then the ace-queen and maybe even pocket jacks that he has here. After being in the tank for about a minute, the small blind 5 bets to 560. Ruh-roh. We snap fold. I don't care about acting like it was a big decision. It's alright though, I don't hate my play, even though y'all might say this is a big punt. That just happens sometimes in poker. On to the next.
It is bomb pot time, ladies and gentlemen. We pick up filming here on the turns, so bear with me. The flop checked through, and the boards are now deuce 4 7 8 with 2 hearts and 9 6 8 3 rainbow. We've got ace queen 10 7. That's good for the stone cold nuts on the bottom board. Not much on the top board, so we check in the small blind. Middle position bets $100. One person calls. We make the call, and under the gun plus 2 calls. There's now over $500 in the pot. We're off to 2 rivers, which are the king of hearts, that 3rd heart on top, and the 9 of spades on the bottom, pairing the board. We no longer have the nuts. I check, not feeling great. However, it checks around, we show, and win the bottom board. Someone has the heart flush on top, and we split a pretty big pot here.
We add $500 to our stack and get dealt pocket deuces in the small blind. $10 straddle on, button opens to 30, I call, big blind calls, and straddler calls. 4 ways to a king jack deuce board with 2 clubs. Bottom set, I'm loving life. Checks over to the button who bets $85. I certainly want to go for a check raise here and ultimately decide on a sizing of 215. This is a little bit smaller than normal, but done on purpose to allow the button to get roped in and hopefully call off what would be a little bit smaller than a pot-sized jam on the turn. However, it doesn't come to that. Folds back to the button and he grabs a stack of black chips and chips it on in there. We're never folding, we call off the all-in and we're off to a run out. The turn brings a 9 of clubs and the river 10 of spades. Brutal run out for us. We lose to quite a bit now. The button has to show first and he shows ace 7 of clubs for the nut flush draw that immediately got there on the turn. Tough loss, but that's alright. Time to rebuy and hopefully run it back up.
We have 2 hands here that I'm firing back to back, starting with a double board bomb pot. Flops come jack 6-9 and 5-3-9. We flop bottom set in a gut shot straight draw. Small blind pots it for 105 and I make the call. Heads up to a turn, which are a 2 on both boards. He checks and I check. The river is a jack, making us a full house, and a 3 on the other board, giving us trips. Now small blind pots it again for 425 this time. Bottom full house is not something to be happy about, but he did check the turn, which shows weakness. I side call, picking up the weak trips, and he flips over pocket 9s, which is good for a better full house on both boards. We get scooped. Super tilting hand, so I start to rack up and call the night right there. But as I do, the dealer gives me pocket jacks for my last hand. I call 5 under the gun and immediately start unracking my chips. Under the gun 1 makes it 35. 2 others in late position call, and you know what's coming from me. I raise it up to 210, essentially committing myself while looking tilted at the same time, which I am. I stack up my chips in one column to seal my fate. Under the gun 1 jams all in, folds back to me, and we quickly make the call for my entire stack. He asked to go once or twice. As I prefaced earlier in this video, I say 2 times dealer. As the flop comes out, he shows us ace king on a board of king 10 6. It's a coin flip no longer, we need a jack. The turn is a 7 and the river is a jello. I should have said once dealer. Go into the second board, which comes ace high in the window. Oh well, we got 1. The turn is another ace and the river is the case jack. Bang bang.
Oh no.
Saved by the river twice. I was racked up. I was gone. I was out. I was gonna be down $2,500 until that river came. Shout out to River Rat. Let's go. Hit it twice in a row. That saves me. It's 1 a.m. I'm gonna keep fighting. I'm still down about 1,000, but now I have kind of some momentum and I'm gonna try to ride it out. I got my buddy Tristan at the table, so let's run it up. Wish me luck. Let's go. Fight back. Right now's the time.
Here we have King 10 of diamonds in the cutoff. We see under the gun +2 open to $20, under the gun +3 calls, hijack calls, we call, and we're off to a flop, which comes Queen Deuce 4 rainbow with a diamond. It checks all the way to me, no c-betting going on, and we've got nothing yet, but we have a backdoor flush draw, backdoor straight draw, and we're gonna take a stab at it using our image here. I bet $55, a little more than half pot, folds to the hijack who makes the call. This was a pro type player, very good at poker. I hope to be as good as him one day. Anyways, off to the turn, which is the 7 of clubs. He checks, and I think we make a mistake here, ladies and gentlemen. I think this is a card that is not worth the double barrel. It's not a diamond. It's not a card that gives us a straight draw. I think on cards like this, we can shut down. I don't want to give up, however, and I bet fire again for $125, and he makes the call. Also, probably not a great idea to bluff a guy that's really good. Anyways, we're off to a river, which is an offsuit 4. We still have king high. He checks. Now we decide to give up, and he shows pocket 8s. So if we maybe fired that triple barrel on the river, he would have folded, but I think the mistake here was not shutting down on the turn.
This next hand, we're dealt King Queen offsuit on the button. There's a $10 straddle on, and the cutoff limps. I opened it to $40 in both the straddler and the limper call. The board comes out Jack 10-4 with 2 diamonds. We do have 1 diamond in our hand and an open ender with 2 overcards. Certainly gonna be c-betting, and I make it $75. That clearly wasn't enough because the straddler check raises me to $300. This is a pretty brutal spot. Given the fact that we only have about 450 left in our stack, I don't think we have any fold equity if we shove. However, calling doesn't make much sense, so we're either going to want to fold or shove all in to realize our full equity. I think both those options are very viable, but given the fact that we've already committed $115 to the pot, as well as the fact that we have 2 overs, an open-ended straight draw, and a backdoor flush draw, I decide on the latter and go for the shove. Our opponent snap calls and we're all in, headed to a turn in river. The turn is a second 4 in the river and 8 of diamonds. We completely brick out, and our opponent is glad to show us that he had king 4 of diamonds. He drilled trips on the turn and didn't matter. He got there on the river with the flush anyways for good measure, and he stacks us. I'm not discouraged though. I'm going to rebuy for the 3rd time and keep on battling against these Action Texas players. Hopefully we can turn it around.
Hoping to build some momentum after that last crazy hand, there's a $10 straddle and I've got pocket 10s on the button. I raise to 35, the big blind calls, and so does the straddler. Flop comes 7-8-3 with 2 hearts, checks to me and I bet 65, the big blind calls, and the straddler makes the fold. Hoping for a safe turn card, instead I get the 2 of hearts. Big blind checks, I still have the overpair, but no idea if I should check or bet to protect against worse pairs and draws. I do bet, I make it 125. I'd be totally fine with a call or a fold, but neither of those options happen. He min raises me to 250. Now I should just fold. We can call here with aces or kings with a heart, but 10s is just too low on the spectrum. In game, I do decide to make the call and assess a river. He's got 500 left in his stack, and I was thinking in the moment, if he was bluffing, he'd be too scared to jam with that much behind. The river comes the 6 of diamonds. Big blind now bets 300 out of his 500 total stack, which looks really strong. Looks like he's trying to milk me for value. I sigh fold my overpair, which deflates some of the momentum that we were starting to build.
This hand we have 8-6 of clubs. It's a fun one in the cutoff. The hijack opens to 20. We make the call and the big blind calls. Off to a flop which comes Jack 9-7 with 2 hearts. Checks all the way to me. And we are going to semi-bluff our open ender here. I make it $40 and both players make the call, however. So looking to improve on the turn, which is the 10 of clubs. Second club and gives us that straight. When it checks to us, we are going to bet that straight. It's a very dynamic board. I make it $125, a little bit more than half pot, and only the big blind calls. Off to a river, over $400 on the line here, and it's the 6 of hearts, the third heart. The big blind checks, and I'm trying to think of what we'll call a bet that is worse than us. There's already a 4-liner and 3 hearts on the board. I'm not sure if just pair type holdings are gonna call another bet, and a check raise would be absolutely miserable. So I decide to check it back. He shows Queen Jack offsuit for just 1 pair, and we take it down. I don't know if a value bet would have worked or not. You guys let me know what you would have done.
This has got to be one of the most crazy and action hands I've played in quite a while. It gets wild, and we've got pocket kings in early position. There are 2 limps to me, and I bump it to $40. The cutoff, the button, the big blind, and both the limpers decide that the $40 is a fair price, and we go 6 ways. I mean, Texas heads up to a flop that comes Jack 6 deuce with 2 clubs. We've got the king of clubs in our hand, and it checks to me. I decide to c-bet this board for $100 to thin the field, charge draws, and get value from any Jack X holdings. The cutoff makes a call, and now it folds to the big blind, who check raises me to $350. Before it's back onto me, the under the gun player now goes into the tank and ends up going all in for about $500 total. Wow, what a spot. Check raising me after I c-bet into 5 other opponents is extremely strong, especially given the fact that we had a caller in between. I don't expect any of my opponents in this hand to have pocket jacks, given the fact that it was a single raise pot, so we're currently really only losing the pocket 6s and pocket deuces flop sets. We've got 340 left in our stack, and the pot is huge compared to that. We're getting 1,000,000 to 1 on this, and I level myself into making a call. The cutoff folds, and the big blind calls the extra 150 to match the stack of the under the gun player, and we're all in 3 ways off to turn and river. An offsuit 4 and an offsuit 9 both seem pretty safe until the big blind turns over pocket deuces for the flopped bottom set. We get stacked for a 4th time, and I think that this one was just lack of discipline, as well as just not listening to my opponents when they give me information.
Last hand for me, we've got King Queen in the big blind playing 5-handed. Our villain from the first King Queen bluff and from the 10s hand opens the low jack to 15. I make the call looking for some revenge. Flop comes 4 Jack Queen with 2 hearts. I check and he bets 30. A lot of bad cards could come on the turn to kill our action, so I decide to fast play my hand and raise it up to 80. It's also easy to balance my range here with bluffs on a board like this with a lot of flush draws, 9-10 or king 10 that I can bluff with. Low jack makes a call to my raise, so we're off to a turn, which comes the 7 of diamonds. I continue now for 130, and again the low jack player makes the call. Thinking in my head, please dealer, give me a safe river. Instead he gives me the 5 of hearts. Now I decide to use a principle that I recommend to everyone in the low stakes. Bet for thin value, and if you get raised, it will be an easy fold because people just don't turn their hands into bluffs on the river anywhere close to what GTO would tell you to do. I make it 225 here, squeaking out all the value I can from a worse queen or potentially a hand like ace jack to hero call. He does toss in a pink chip signaling a call. We show and we are good. Nice hand to end the 9 on what's been a really tough session for us.
Little bit of deja vu here, guys, as we have 8-6 of clubs in the cutoff yet again. This time something different's gonna happen. Under the gun limps for 5. Under the gun +1 opens to 20. We call. Under the gun calls. Off to a flop, which comes king 5-3 with 2 clubs. It checks to me again, just like the last hand, no c-betting. So we get the semi-bluff, but with a flush draw this time. I make it 35 and only under the gun calls. The turn is the 8 of hearts, and this time, the under the gun player leads into us for $55. This is a super small lead bet. It seems like he might be setting his price for a draw. I debate raising, but then decide to just take the pot odds I'm getting to chase my own draw, and I make the call. The river is the 4 of clubs, the 3rd club. We hit our flush, and he keeps betting. He bets $125. I'm a little worried, obviously, because if we were right that he was setting his own price on the turn with a draw has gotten there, and there's a lot of flushes that beat an 8-high flush. However, we can't fold getting this price in a great hand. We make the call. Sure enough, he shows ace 10 of clubs for the bigger flush. We kind of got an idea of what he was doing on the turn, but even knowing that, I'm not sure what we could have done differently. I don't really think we can fold the river. And raising the turn seems a little off. Let me know what you guys think.
Well, never a good sign when we're recording the outro from the car. I played freaking god awful today. I could not win a pot, but can't blame it on luck. I just played so freaking horrible today. In for 2,200, out for a big old goose egg. Big loss following a few big wins. Yeah, I got crushed today. They just played better than me and I couldn't fold.
Into the game for 750, out for 875. A modest win. It's gonna pay for drinks tonight. We'll take it.
Not a good one today for me. I was in for 2,500, out for 900. So it was a tough session, stemming from some impatience that caused me to lose some extra money that I shouldn't have. I've played a couple sessions since then off camera, and I've done pretty well, actually making back the loss from today. So just make sure to subscribe because we have some really good videos coming up, including the meetup video game coming next week at 11 a.m. Central. So make sure to subscribe for that and like the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.